Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the Option Plus podcast. In this episode, I would like to introduce you to why I think that cypherpunk technologies and Cryptoanarchy works. What are the mechanisms that actually bring us more freedom? So this is a topic that not many people think about. They are often like, oh, I want more privacy. I want a permissionless financial system. But the question is, what is the mechanism? How does it translate to us having more liberty, more freedom in our day-to-day lives? I, of course, write about strategies, how to use these technologies in our lives in my book, Cryptocurrencies, Hack Your Way to a Better Life. So if you want the practical strategies, I highly recommend reading this book. It is amazing and very unique on the market. You will find information that you will not find in your common Bitcoin or crypto book there. And the book is available in English and in Spanish, and of course in my native Slovak languages. You can read it as an ebook or as a paperback, and you can get it either through my eShop. If you use a coupon Option Plus, you can get a discount, or you can get it on Amazon, which in case of paperback might be more efficient because I use print on demand and they will print the book for you closer to wherever you want it delivered. But of course, on my eShop, you can pay in a more private way with Bitcoin Lightning, standard Bitcoin, and Monero as well. I also accept credit cards for the dinosaurs among you that still use the legacy financial system. I don't discriminate, but of course, I would suggest that you move to the new financial system. This podcast is a recording of a talk I gave at Web3 Privacy Summit in Prague, which was amazing, and I highly recommend checking other talks, especially the talk by Rachel Rose O'Leary on Lunarpunk. It is amazing and I think very thought-provoking, and it allows us, the whole Lunarpunk idea allows us to see the world in a completely different way. So enjoy, and I hope you learn something new. What I would like to tell you is kind of a positive vision. I don't like things being based on fear that much. And the question is, if we have all these privacy tech, electronic cash, and anonymization technologies, how does it actually relate to our freedom or to our lives in general? Because it's when people talk about cryptoanarchists and or think about them, they often imagine, we are some nerds that are using some command line utilities to do some signatures and so on, and then we it doesn't apply to anything else that we do outside of our lives. My vision that I want to present you is how we actually can use these technologies to increase our freedom in real life, in meat space. And I have two levels of this game. But first of all, we need to ask ourselves, what is freedom? What are we trying to maximize? What we are trying to increase? So if you are libertarians and you've read all the libertarian literature, you probably read about something that is called a non-aggression principle, which is a textbook answer. It's general absence of coercive force, allowing individuals to live their lives freely without interference. While this is a good definition for society, how liberty in society should look like, it's not very useful in case of our individual choices because it's dependent on them who want or don't want to coerce you. So we need to turn something that they are or are not doing and actually look at our own actions and see if there is something that we can do, not depending on them. Here, the them is represented by eye in the pyramid. If you have read the very good book called Illuminatus, you have probably seen this symbol. Some of you maybe use US shitcoins with the dead American presidents. There's the same symbol. And to me, it represents both surveillance, that's the eye, and also the hierarchy, which is represented in my mind by the pyramid. And I think we need to get rid of both of these, and that's the actual strategy. So practically, we don't want to rely on them. So all these reform effort, talk, Twitter pissing contests, protests, manifestos, and so on, these things are not increasing your freedom. They might be useful in the long term in changing the perception of society about these topics. But if you actually want to do something to increase your freedom, winning a Twitter fight or lobbying the government for a new privacy regulation or lack of regulation is not going to cut it. It's to a large extent a waste of time. So, as I said, there are two levels. Level 1, why does Cryptoanarchy work? What are we actually going to do? The first thing to notice is one of the ways how to really not be free is if you are in jail or even dead. And in order to avoid this situation, a good realization is only human bodies can be put in jail. So if there is a way to disconnect some of your actions and some of your property from your body, which is identified by your name or many other identifiers like the scary drones in Rojava, that's a good way to start. As I said, it's level 1. But in order to do this, we can use the strategies that cryptoanarchists were trying to experiment with. And what is nice about this strategy is that it's a strategy to prevent conflicts with the state, but also with other people. And we use these technologies: cryptography, anonymization, electronic cash, and so on. But what is interesting and very unique about Cryptoanarchy is that most freedom theory is based on the premise of winning conflicts. You know, we are going to beat them. We are going to legalize weed. We are going to introduce 0% tax on crypto. We are going to whatever enable cookie notices, and that's going to change our life for the better. So there are two sides that are in conflict, and the only way to actually win and get more freedom in all these other approaches is to win those conflicts. I think the best approach is not to start them in the first place. And for that, in Cryptoanarchy, we look at military theory of conflicts. And in this case, it's a theory of an OODA loop. So an OODA loop is something that two sides who are in conflict, they both go through this loop all the time. So first they observe something. So you can observe there's a Russian tank there. Then you orient, you see, okay, the Russian tank that is there is not looking very friendly and it's coming my way. Then you have to decide what are you going to do? Are you going to run? Are you going to suddenly start speaking Russian and whatever, wave a white flag? And then you need to act, then you need to execute the action. Most reform movements, as I said, they focus on the decide part. So they say, okay, you are not going to put me into jail because of buying a bag of wheat. And the reason is that we have collectively agreed that this rule no longer applies and the judge will not decide to put me into jail. So that's a reform movement of drug legalization. In Cryptoanarchy, we say that if it goes this far, you already failed. It's too late. You already started the conflict and you wanted to exit the OODA loop as soon as possible. So the way to do it in Cryptoanarchy is don't be observed with a bag of wheat. And if you are observed, make sure that the other side of the conflict doesn't understand what happened. You know, is it you just walking around with a bag of wheat, or did they see you exchange it for cash or for something else? Cryptoanarchy and these privacy technologies are doing two things. You try to disconnect your body with some of your actions, and you are trying to not to be observed and not to be you are making it difficult for the other side to understand what happened. If you do this, you exit the OODA loop very fast, the conflict doesn't even start, and you have more freedom and you live your life. But that's just level one. So maybe you have heard that privacy is the power to selectively reveal oneself to the world. And that leads directly to a form of freedom, because your body is non-jailable if it's not identified. So you kind of disappear into this cyphersphere cloud. You become you become invisible in some of your actions. On the other hand, it also limits some of your choices. So again, depends on your definition of freedom, because if you have to use whatever difficult technology and cubes and everything, then you're not living your life as most normies with all the apps and golden credit cards and all the other things that are convenient. So it's not a win-win situation, but if freedom and liberty is important to you, it's a trade-off that you have to take. In order to do this, I don't think it is wise to go like all in, like immediately super paranoid mode, delete all apps, everything, and just go crazy and all in, because you will not be able to sustain this. Total anonymity in all your actions is super hard. Just when you go outside, just look at the cameras and the face, and that can scan your face, and you will understand that even just moving around the street is not as private as you think. So if you would really want to take it to 100% anonymity, you're going to have a difficult time. So a good way to approach this is to understand what your party actually observes. So again, back to the OODA loop. There's a good book by James Scott that's called Seeing Like a State, and that's on the reasoning of identity, of location information like standardized street names and so on. And if you understand what the state sees, why they want to know it, how they're going to use it, if you understand how reporting works, then you can say, okay, I definitely don't want them to know my location, for example, and so on. So basically, again, you are trying to avoid them to be able to move your body into a prison cell. Of course, do not put any important information on a blockchain. Dear Ethereum people, please don't do it. It's a very stupid idea. It's not forward secrecy and so on. So especially if it's on by default. That's why I'm very reluctant to use Ethereum, and when I do, I actually feel like I have to put a condom on myself and create a disposable address, do my business, and leave as soon as possible, because and even then I'm kind of scared of this interaction. So that's why I prefer more anonymous technologies. What is also interesting in the books by James Scott, he has another book where he explores the rise of the early states. And he notices that these people who are not affiliated to a land and to a state had quite a free life. They were actually even contracted by the states to catch tax slaves who were escaping. So if you are not in a database, if you live somewhere where you're considered a tourist or a non-important person, then you get a little bit more freedom. If you go to a vacation to Thailand, no Thai bureaucrat is asking you to fill a tax return or anything like that. Of course, there are levels to this. Now we need visas, we need papers and stuff like that. And unfortunately, not everyone is able to get these. But we can all travel or nomad to the cyphersphere or to the dark forest, and maybe with just some of our activities go there. So how does it look like when you move to this cyphersphere? And again, like, you cannot move your physical body there, but you can move some of your activities there. You want to be seen as a nomad is seen in any country where they travel to. You are basically an unproductive backpacker traveling the world, having the time of your life. You're probably living off your parents' credit card, if you're older, then maybe off your own. And it should be super they should understand that getting any money out of you is impossible. You're a poor person, you don't have income, savings, no real estate, you're just pure burden of society and pure consumer, and you live somewhere else than where your database entries are. Level 2. We have seen many talks that try to explain what is happening from the high level, what they, the eye in the pyramid, what they are doing. And understanding the game is important, but most people try to understand it from the point of the red guy on top. What is Putin thinking? What is he going to do? What is whatever US going to do? But for increasing our freedom, we are not that guy. We don't need to understand them. We need to understand our position and what is our situation. So there are several ways to play this game, which is an old game of power dynamics, dominance, and hierarchy game. You can be one of a few types of characters. If we generalize, either you are a beta, submissive, then your goal is to basically have a good life, survive, don't be bothered by anyone. You want some privacy because you don't want to stand out. You don't want to be seen as a threat to either the alpha or the dominance hierarchy. But other than that, you are just kind of in this state of brain fog, basically, and these are basically hidden and powered by fear and kind of trying to make by and survive. With, of course, the highest quality of life possible, but still you're trying to survive. If you're an alpha, your goal is to move up in the dominance hierarchy.
This is totally stupid way to play this game, because first of all, you do not understand how the hierarchy works, and it's not because you are stupid, but because it's unknowable. It's so complex that no one actually knows the current state of the hierarchy. And if you actually succeed and you move up in the hierarchy, you will realize you're not actually getting the fulfillment, because there is always one step up that you can go. So it's as stupid as thinking that if you actually snort a line of cocaine, that it will in a reality make you king of the world. Most people I have seen doing this, they think that they are kings of the world or queens of the world, but the reality is different. So this is actually a very primitive, primal brain, primate brain way of trying to win the game, and it will never end this way. So it's unwinnable in this way. So the good way to do it is to say, okay, fuck this. I'm not going to be in this org chart of society, and I want to move to something that some people call node first relationships, so peer to peer. And that's again where Bitcoin and crypto comes in, because we are trying to be more peer to peer. So in order to leave the game, you need, first of all, to drop off the radar of dominance hierarchy. And the best way to do it, or one of the most important things to keep in mind, is you are not showing off as a threat to their position. Most of the people in the hierarchy don't actually care about the hierarchy itself. They only care about their position. But it is not, good to show, middle finger, fuck you, everyone. I am out of your hierarchy, because that means that some of the, especially alphas, may perceive that you are actually trying to take their place. Also, the betas don't like it, because then you are free and they're still, hidden in their corner and hoping to survive their life. So that's the first thing, don't show off your presence, but don't show off that you won the game or that you are in the process of winning the game. And then, of course, it is creating, nurturing, and growing meaningful relationships with other nodes. So what to do? I don't think the game is about persuading some customers to pay with crypto. It's not about showing off your super paranoid graphene Tor, whatever command line Monero setup. That's nice. I like to geek out. But the end game is to get more freedom, to not be put in jail, and to step out of the dominance hierarchy by disappearing from the radar, understanding them enough to be able to step out of their game, but not threatening them, and then create the value and meaningful business and personal relationships in the cyphersphere. So you basically enter the dark forest. For this, how it relates to crypto is that it creates these communities. We have people here that can talk to each other, and we might think of each other as, nerds behind their computers, but many of us have families. We actually want to live a good life, enjoy our life. We have many other passions than things behind the keyboard. And if we cooperate out of the hierarchies, we can create many interesting things. And if you are out of the hierarchies, the possibilities of connections are endless, even with much fewer nodes. So it doesn't take us convincing 1 million people. You can create a meaningful parallel society with maybe 20 to 100 people. That's even maybe too much. And this way, with all these connections and all these interactions, we can actually build something. So it's not about building the tech itself; it's about living meaningful lives and creating something. I recommend not wasting time with political discussions and definitely not persuading politicians. It's first of all a threat and then a waste of time. But also, I don't think it's necessary to be overly paranoid about every cookie you send everywhere or everything. You need to understand what the state sees and what they can do with it, how it actually works.
Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this podcast episode. I remind you that more practical topics on how to use cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin to improve our lives, get more freedom, are available in my book, Cryptocurrencies, Hack Your Way to a Better Life. If you are a regular listener of this podcast, or if you found value in this podcast, there is a really easy way to show your support and help us grow. Download any podcasting 2.0 app such as Fountain or Breeze. They work both on iOS and Android, and then follow the Option Plus podcast and start listening. You can share your thoughts on this episode by sending a boost, that's like a payment with a message, and see what other listeners have to say or create clips of the best moments. Getting started is easy. You can top up your Fountain or Breeze wallet with a Bitcoin Lightning transaction or even a bank card. I hope this podcast brings value to you, and it would be great if you can support this podcast by paying us this value. You probably spent some time listening to it, so you already demonstrated it is not worthless. So it would be nice to reward the podcaster, in this case me, with what this podcast is worth to you. The alternative for podcasters such as me is advertising, and with podcasts that are created for the sake of advertising, you become the product and not the customer. I would personally like you to remain a customer, not a product, and I would like your support in allowing this podcast to continue in a sustainable way. Try it out. Thank you for listening.